Hello, guys. This is Paul McMillan II, and welcome to episode 2 of the Financial Education Academy. Now, if you're seeing this video on TikTok, I just want to make a quick announcement. I decided to change my brand from Financial Education Center to Financial Education Academy because when I opened up my YouTube channel, they told me I could not do education I couldn't put education inside the headline for the channel name. So I had to change it to Financial Education Academy, which personally I love better. Okay, so that's just an announcement. So again, welcome to episode 2. Now, in my previous episode, I've talked about how to get the most affordable insurance, which means getting insurance when you are young. Because when you're young and healthy, the insurance company looks at you as the lowest risk, which means that your premiums or your monthly payments are going to be the lowest, okay? Then I talk about why it's important to have an individual policy, even though you may have a policy at the employer that you work with. So now we're going to talk about at least 3 to 4 more topics. How does life insurance work? Do I need life insurance? Because a lot of people ask, do I need it? When should I get it? Which kind of ties into when to get it the most affordable. How much life insurance do you need? And what does life insurance cover? So I'm going to make this quick and easy, but I'm going to explain this in the best way. So let's talk about how does life insurance work. Life insurance is a contract to where if somebody passes away, then the insurance company pays out what they call life insurance benefits, and we call it the death benefit. So in the event of death or sickness as well, and I'll explain that, in the event of death, the insurance company will pay money out to the beneficiary. So whoever is the beneficiary that was listed in that insurance policy when the application was created, they are the ones that are going to get the money to do whatever they need to do to replace the income that was lost from the person that passed away. Now, there are 3 beneficiaries. There's the primary beneficiary, the contingent, and the titular beneficiary. So what that means is that, let's say you are the one that's putting the life insurance policy out, okay? You put it on yourself. Let's say you have a wife and children, okay? So the primary beneficiary would be your wife. So if you pass away, she did the life insurance proceeds to do she needs to do financially. If she passes away before you do, then you would probably put your oldest child as the contingent beneficiary. So that way, if you pass away, then your oldest child, if they're old enough, they would handle the proceeds. Let's say let's say in a scenario, your wife and your child dies. Let's say you had 2 children. So your second child, if they're old enough, they would be the titular beneficiary. So if you passed away, they would get the life insurance proceeds to do what they need to do. Whether it's to pay the burial cost, whether it's to pay off the house, whether it's to pay off any debt, and as well as if your children are trying to go to college and trying to go to school, they can use those proceeds to help them get into college and to pay whatever college expenses they have. Okay. So that's how life insurance works. Now, life insurance doesn't only pay out in the event of death, it also pays out in the event of sickness. We call those living benefits. Living benefits is when if you get a critical, chronic, or terminal illness while you're living, then you can put in a claim to the insurance company, and the insurance company is going to want to do investigations to see if it's a legit illness. And then if it is, they'll allow you to use some of your death benefit to do whatever you need to do to pay for expenses to treat your illness or whatever hospital stays you have, whatever the case may be. So life insurance and living benefits helps while you're living. Then it also pays out if you happen to pass away as well. Life insurance is one of the best ways to create wealth, and it's one of the ways to also replace income, and it's one of the ways to help people recover financially in the event of death. Because unfortunately, when somebody passes away, they're not able to work and make money anymore. So whoever was relying on that breadwinner income will suffer if they don't have a life insurance policy in place. Life insurance is money. It's a lump sum of money that pays out in the event of death or sickness that can help a person recover financially and become whole again. Okay. So let's talk about the second thing. Do I need life insurance? And I'm going to be completely honest with you. Yes, you do. Okay. I'm going to talk about a couple of scenarios. Now, my grandmother passed away in 2017, but she was smart. She had a life insurance policy. Okay. She had a $5,000 policy, and it was enough for us to take care of the funeral expenses. Okay. Now, $5,000 is not a lot, but sometimes it could be enough to carry cremation, depending on if the person wants cremation or full burial, whatever type of funeral service they want. That life insurance can cover that if they have enough. So that life insurance policy, even though it's $5,000, was enough to cover burial expenses. So that way, me and my mother and father and family didn't have to go into debt and go into savings in order to cover that funeral. And at that time, my dad was out of work as well. So can you imagine being laid off from your job and then your parent passes away? Now you got to worry about funeral expenses when you're not making any income. So do you need life insurance? Yes, you do. Life insurance is very critical because, and there's a lot of insurances out there that are just as critical, like disability insurance, because disability insurance covers people when they get hurt at work. When you get hurt at work, you're not making any money. But when it comes to life insurance, there's so many things that can happen in the flick of a time that we don't expect. You can be going out to a grocery store and you can get into an accident and pass away. Wasn't even planning on getting into an accident. You can go to the school to pick up your kid, and for some crazy reason, a gunman comes into the house and kills everybody, kills you, right? Now you're gone. But then you also look at the sickness part, right? The truth of the matter is we don't know when we're going to get sick. We can come down with cancer at any time. We can come down with diabetes. We can come down with a lot of illnesses that makes life insurance companies say no when we fill out a life insurance application. So do you need life insurance? Absolutely. You also need it as soon as possible because that's when it's the cheapest. When you're young, that's when it's the cheapest, and that's when you're the most healthiest. So you can get a cheaper rate, the cheapest rates, and your chances of being able to qualify for insurance is going to be a whole lot easier. Because if you wait until later and you get some kind of disease, let's say cancer, most life insurance companies will deny it. And then what happens if something happens to you? Let's say you get into an accident or you get into a situation and somebody violently comes and kills everybody, or you get to a situation to where you happen to be on vacation. Let's say you're out on the beach and something catastrophic happens. You never know. Everybody needs life insurance. Everybody needs it because you never know when you're going to get sick. You never know when you're going to pass away. Okay. Now, that ties into when should I get life insurance? Get it as young as you can. Because again, you have to understand the insurance companies have to protect themselves as well. They need to make sure they take on clients that they can properly insure. So that way they're not able to protect their business, but also be able to protect their clients and pay them out as well. So if you get older, they know as time goes on, you're going to get sick more likely with a disease because of the American diet, because of certain situations. They know the longer a person lives, there's a chance that they may deal with an unexpected risk. There's just a lot of things that can come up. So it's better to have a life insurance policy in place beforehand. So that way, if unfortunately that risk comes, or unfortunately you get sick, you stay covered. So that way you can address the expenses that will help you get treatment for that sickness. Or if unfortunately you pass away, your family will not have to worry about the house. The surviving spouse doesn't have to worry about trying to get 2 or 3 jobs to cover the mortgage or to cover the kids' education or to cover the prescription bills. They don't have to worry about, are they going to have enough money to put their child in the best school so that way they can get the best education. So it's good to get life insurance when you're young and healthy, so that way it's the cheapest, and you have a higher chance of being approved to be covered by the insurance company. Okay. Now let's talk about how much life insurance do you need? Well, life insurance does a lot of things, but we're going to talk about replacing income. So you as the breadwinner have to figure out how much money do you make a year. Okay. Then once you figure out how much money you make a year, you'll also have to multiply that by how many years do you have until you retire. So I'll give you a perfect example, and I'm going to do the math. So let's say you make $150,000 a year. Okay. Now you're 30 years old. Typical retirement age is 65. So 30 years old, if you divide that by, so really at 30 years old, you retire at 65, you have another 35 years. Let me make sure I do the math. 65 subtracts 30. So you have another 35 years. So you're going to multiply 150,000 times that by 35 years. So so a person in that situation is going to need $5.2 million worth of life insurance. Now, that's just an estimate. You get what you can afford, but that's how you figure out the ballpark of how much coverage that you need to cover your situation. Because life insurance is there to cover your debt, to cover any debt that happens if you pass away. So that way the debt is not on the burden of your family. It covers replaces the income that's lost because now you can't work anymore because you're gone. It replaces the mortgage. Okay. So that way the house is paid off. So the surviving spouse or the surviving person doesn't have to worry about losing the house and having to live in a neighborhood that may be unsafe, may be rat infested, cockroach infested. It may be an area that's not best for the children. That life insurance will pay off the house so that way the lifestyle is not changed. Then we're talking about education. That also helps to make sure that your child or your children get into the best school to get the best education so they can be successful. So that's why that formula we call it the DIME. D-I-M-E. D stands for debt, I stands for income, M stands for mortgage, E stands for education. Very important. Now, last but not least, we're going to talk about what does life insurance cover. Life insurance covers a lot of things. Really, insurance covers a lot of things. Car insurance covers cars, health insurance covers your health. Life insurance covers anybody that passes away, anybody that has a critically, chronic, or terminally ill while they're living. And they're going to cover expenses that health insurance doesn't cover. So, perfect example, you get sick and you have to be pulled away in the ambulance. Health insurance doesn't cover that. You have to pay that out of pocket. There's a lot of expenses that happens because of hospital stay that regular health insurance doesn't cover. But life insurance and living benefits will cover that. So that way you don't have to come out of pocket. Because one of the biggest, most stressful things that a person can go through is end up being legitimately sick, but now they have to work hard at their job to cover the expenses that came with that sickness because health insurance doesn't cover it. That's why accident and sickness policies are very, very valuable, and that's why life insurance is very valuable as well. So life insurance covers a lot of things that people don't think about. That's the reason why education is key. So that's it for episode 2. Get ready for episode 3. And in episode 3, I'm going to go over, let me go in here. So we covered how does life insurance work. We covered, do I need life insurance? When should I get life insurance? How much life insurance do I need? What does life insurance cover? Now, for the next one, trying to look at my notes here, bear with me. Now we're going to talk about term versus whole life and different types of life insurance and what they do and what purpose they serve. None is better than the other. They all serve a purpose. That's why education is key, because in the space, a lot of people like to argue and say, whole life is better, term is better. Don't choose term, don't choose whole life. That's incorrect. They both serve a purpose, and that's one of the subjects that we're going to talk about in episode 3. Now, we're going to also talk about, can we get life insurance with health issues? Now, that's a very deep subject. And again, when I touch on that, I'm going to touch again why it's good to get life insurance when you're younger. Okay. I'm going to touch on that just a little bit, but it can be very complicated. So typically, I'm just going to basically cover a few points that I know about. Because health issues, it really depends on the insurance company. There's some insurance companies that will take a person with diabetes. There's some insurance companies that won't take a person with diabetes. So that's why I'm going to touch on that. And that's the reason why it's good to get life insurance when you're the youngest. Because now, when you get it when you're young and you're covered, doesn't matter what health issue you get, the insurance company will still pay out in the event of sickness or death. So that's what I'm going to cover on episode 3. Thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. And I'm excited to see you guys in the next episode. Take care.